Hi, my name is Savannah War, and today I will be telling you about the Adoptee's Right to Know law. When you think about adopting, what is the first thing you think of? Where do you think these children come from? Most people think that adoption means that you are adopting out of the country, which is also true, but about 135,000 children are adopted in the United States each year. 59% of those children come from foster care, and contrary to popular belief, only 26% of those children come from other countries. And the last 15% come from American relinquished babies. So let's get started with the case that got the ball rolling. Many of us don't know, but there's a constant battle going on between birth parents' right to privacy and the adoptee's right to know. And whose rights are more important? Whose rights matter the most? If it was you, which side would you fall on? Just take a minute to think. If you were an adopted child, would you want to have the right to know who your birth mother was? Or would you rather have that right taken from you? Honestly, for me, I feel like if I was an adopted child, no matter how much I love my adopted parents, I would want that right to be able to know where I came from and what my roots were. Most American adoptees can't or don't have the access to find that information, and that was stated by Andrila 2016. In 1963, Carol Whitehead was an 18-year-old mother who was living in New York who got pregnant off a wedlock. She decided to place her baby up for adoption, but she requested that the adoption files please remain open so that if her child, when he turned 18, wanted to be able to find her, he would have the access to do so. But she remembers stating specifically, "I don't want confidentiality. Don't tell me that that's what I want because it's not what I want." But the whole adoption process, she stated, was very fuzzy, and she could never get a clear statement that her adoption process would be open so her son could find her down the road if he would like to. And that was stated from POR in 2019. The adoption agency that she used was Louise Wise Adoption Agency. They had told her that no matter the circumstances and no matter her preference, the adoption would be confidential just because that was how the system had worked back then. Now let me ask you this question again. If you had to give up your child, which people go to adoption for all many reasons now, but if you were going to put your child up for adoption and you had asked that you had the adoption files remain open so that way your child could find you, how would you feel if that wasn't the case? And that was also stated by POR in 2019. Before 1935, the adoption records were open, but after that, the agencies ordered to close and have private adoptions, meaning that there was no external contact between the family and the adoptive families. While a child was a minor, some states have laws where when you're 18, you can have the choice to access your birth files, but you have to go through a very lengthy process to do so, and you have to petition and go to the courts. So why is it their right to do so and that's your right to have? And that was stated also within POR in 2019. Republican State Representative Kenny Bingoff said that legislators don't often understand how deeply this affects the adoptees and their families, and how much it can really enhance them as a person. He also stated that it's easy to vote no for things that you really don't know much about. So with that being said, many of the states voted no simply because they just don't understand the matter. They really don't understand the things that they're passing judgment on. In the 1960s, adoption records were sealed because there was a stigma going around that when you get pregnant, it's because you're out of wedlock. You're not just giving up your baby adoption just to give your baby up for adoption. It's because you don't want people to find out. So it was decided then that there would be no birth mother name on the birth certificate. It would just be the adopted parents as if they had the child themselves. And that was stated by Burgle in 2016. In recent years, there has been several advocacy groups like the American Adoption Congress and the Adoption Rights Coalition that have pushed to get this law changed. There's been a very big growing pressure for it to happen. They used to tread very gently with the subject, but now they have to take more forceful approach because the legislatives just aren't listening. And that was stated by Simpson in 2019. So now let's move on to the adoptees and how they can open their sealed records and which states currently have them open. As of right now, if you are an adoptee and you want to see your records, you have to go to the judge, and the judge will decide whether or not to do so. If it is not, quote unquote, an emergency and it's just for personal use, he will not open your records. So why does the law get to decide whether or not your reason, whether it is an emergency or it's a personal reason, why do they get to decide whether or not you can see your birth record? It is your birthright, it is your name, it is all your information. So what makes them be able to decide that? And that's what we're fighting for. That's what we're trying to change. As of 2020, several states have realized that it is the child's right. It is the child. They should have the right to know where they came from and who their mother was. But there are still 25 states that have not changed this. And that is what we're trying to fix, and that is what we're fighting for. And that was stated from Mellon in 2019. Here are just a couple of the states that have changed theirs recently. Alabama, Alaska, Colorado, Hawaii, Kansas, Maine, Rhode Island, Oregon, New Hampshire. Hawaii just did pass theirs in June, and soon after they did, Indiana and Missouri hopped on that bandwagon so they could enact the same laws. But just as some states were passing, others were denying this legislative law. Louisiana and Kentucky failed to pass this law. Last but not least, let's talk about some of the statistics that correlate to opening up an adoption record. It is also argued that when a person is able to see where they come from, they will be able to excel in life much better than if they didn't. A journal article written by Julia C. Rhodes shows that the numbers are significantly higher for adults who had access to their pre-adoption records. It states that 48% out of 123 that were currently surveyed went or in some school or had gone to school. 21% had finished already, and of that 21%, 11.4 had already gone to graduate school. And that was stated from Rhodes in 2002. So what can we do as a community to help? There are so many steps that you can take to get involved and to try to fix this. I would say the first one would be contact your local city council and see who they can put you in touch with. See if they can put you in touch with the correct person. And once you get in touch with the correct person, start trying to push to get your state to pass this law and your neighboring states. And then I would say the second step would be find somebody that you want to specifically advocate for. Because when you specifically advocate for somebody that you know, you get a whole different perspective on it and you really want to push for it. And honestly, if we can all just work together, I really do think that we could get this passed. And so in conclusion, for an adopted child, learning where you come from your roots can be very important. We're almost there. We all just need to keep working together.